This is Richard Lynch with Saint, and you're watching the Covenant Metal Show with Dave Kruse.
Hey guys, I am here with bassist Richard Lynch from legendary, iconic metal band Saint. Richard, thanks so much for being on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Excited to have you, man. Now, we met in person once in 2017 at SoCal Metal Fest in California.
Yes, we were doing a benefit show that time, and it was a lot of fun. I think that it turned out really well.
Yeah, it was a great time for sure, man. Lots of great bands. What I like to do is I like to start out with like band beginnings, like how Saint formed, how you guys came up with the name, and and then we could go into like your journey from the release of Saint's first album, Warriors of the Sun, in 1984, to your most recent album, The Calf, which came out in 2019. So how and when did Saint come about, and how'd you come up with the name Saint?
Well, let's go way back. It's kind of a funny story. I was probably about 19 years old. Didn't play music at all, really. I started out playing guitar. I really started playing drums when I was a young kid. But when I met John Mahan, he pretty much guided me through a lot of the playing style that we do now. But before then, about the time when I was 19, there was this little old lady. Her name was Mrs. Shumway. And she came up to me and she goes, I have a word from the Lord. It's not from me. It's from the Lord. And she goes, you're going to be a minister and the church isn't probably going to like you. Right. And we left it at that. And it wasn't until probably about 1989 that it just hit me. Wow, that actually happened. And they don't like me. So, but anyway, back to your question, because this all leads, that all leads up to this. Yeah, we got started we did the Gentile thing. John Mahan, Jim Maxwell, Russ Cook, Bob Page, Max Clark. We did that. That was around 1980, 81. We recorded that project. And then, things didn't really go that well for us. And John moved away. And then all that was left was myself and Gene McClendon, the drummer at that time. And so he took the name The Gentiles with him. And we had to come up with a name, and rather than being a Gentile, I thought we might just want to be saints. So we named the band Saint at that point.
Wow, very nice. You guys have been compared to Judas Priest. Primarily because of the vocal stylings of Josh Kramer. And what's your thoughts on that? I mean, did you guys take that as a compliment, or you were like, no, we're our own thing, and yeah, there might be some similarities?
Well, no, it's we totally ripped them off. I mean, John Mahan and I, we would look at other players, and that we would audition and stuff, and we'd go, can we Judasize them? Because we were so much into Judas Priest, at that point in time. That was around 82. Okay. And we kind of listened and studied their style and how they used their bass, which is a lot of droning. It wasn't as articulated as, say, what Steve Harris from Iron Maiden would do, per se. But we were totally influenced by them, and it's very clear. We were also influenced a lot by Accept their Balls to the Wall album, which, by the way, if you listen to Balls to the Wall album, they're influenced by Judas Priest also.
Yeah.
We were also influenced by Dio and Black Sabbath and Alice Cooper, and even I could go as far as to say City Boy, which isn't a metal band, but I really liked them, and I liked the way that they presented the Day of the Earth Caught Fire album, the way that it was pieced together, and so I got a lot of ideas from those guys as well.
Wow. Very cool. Those are great influences, man. Sincerely. That really, explains your guys' sound. Absolutely. Now, I had mentioned, just a little while ago, your guys' very first album, Warriors of the Sun, which came out in 1984 on Rotten Records. How did you guys go about getting signed?
Well, Rotten Records. John Mahan nicknamed me Rotten.
Ah, okay.
So, so back then, everybody, when they would refer to me, it was that's Rotten, and so we basically, he and I formed that record label because we weren't happy with the offers that we were getting from, at that point in time, Toonsmith and Refuge hadn't. Refuge was out. They did the Joe Inglis thing, but they didn't have a metal label yet. So we went ahead and put that out on our own, and then Murata comes along, and at that point in time, I'm going to be real candid here, but at that point in time, there was a lot of not a lot of there was a government funding that if a record label put out vinyl, that they would get $100,000 kicker.
Wow.
Right? A subsidy to help the music industry. And so we barely just got picked up so they could get their $100,000 subsidy. And they were kind of ticked off that the album actually took off. They wanted to print 1,000 copies and call it a day. And so, anyway, so that's what they did, and then they printed 1,000 more and 1,000 more, and I have no idea how many they ended up printing of albums and cassettes before we got picked up by Pure Metal.
Wow. Yeah, and excuse me, you guys' first album on Pure Metal, Time's End, which to this day still remains, a classic. Came out in 1986, and I first heard about you guys actually. There was a buddy of mine who worked at a Bible store, Christian bookstore, and he worked in he was a manager of the music department, and I thought it was so cool that there was a section that was just dedicated to Christian hard rock and metal. And that's where I found out about a lot of bands. And I'm just flipping through there one day and I'm like, Saint. And it was when you guys had come out with the Mark. And I was like, Saint, And I asked my buddy about it. And I'm like, what do these guys sound like? And he's like, oh, they're kind of like Judas Priest. And I'm like, right on. And I just checked it out. And I'm like, wow, this is really good stuff, And, for me, though, I would have to say, like, if I had to just pick two favorite Saint albums, it would have to be Time's End and Too Late for Living. And I really, really love those. And I really like, honestly, but what's weird is one of my favorite songs that you guys did is Hellblade, which is on the Hellblade album. Which came out in 2010. I got a screen over here I'm looking on, so I get all my information correct. But yeah, the Calf, that is just an amazing album. And now, do you guys still have Dave Nelson singing for you, or what's the status with Saint at this time?
Well, right now, Dave he's still with us.
Okay.
We have a new album that we're actually done recording. It's all in Jared's hands now. He does all of the final producing.
Okay.
And I'm gonna guess, because he's in the middle of building a ground up studio.
Oh, wow.
He's built several. Well, he bought some property. He and his wife bought some property, and on the property, he's building a building so that he doesn't have to keep moving, from place to place. Plus, he doesn't have to leave his house. He can just go out and work.
Yeah.
But he still has his other studio going. It's just a matter of the weather and if what he has time for. He plays in like he's doing 2 other projects as well. Most of the guys in the band, except for me, I only play in Saint. That's all I have time for. But the other guys, they all play in other bands.
Wow.
But back to Dave. Yeah, he actually wrote all of the lyrics and melodies on this new album. It's going to be called Heaven Fell, not as though like heaven fell as in it like the angels fell, but when heaven came down. Our typical apocalyptic type theme.
Apocalyptic metal.
Yes.
Yeah. I look forward to that. Is there like maybe an ETA on when that's coming out?
Jared says by the end of summer. So, Jared time is Jared time. So
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we get. And I, to be honest with you, I wouldn't have anybody else do the final production on that or on any of my stuff. I mean, since Hellblade, that's when Jared came into the picture.
Okay.
Our productions have vastly improved from the earlier days because the guy is an amazing engineer. He's an amazing drummer. He can hear everything. I mean, I'll be sitting there. As a matter of fact, he kind of ruined me because, like the Wars of the Sun and Time's End and Too Late for Living. I didn't have, I don't have his ear. He catches all of the vocal pitches, fixes them, make the vocalist fix them. Everybody needs Jared in their band. Clearly, one time we were recording with Josh, and Josh left the vocal booth. He was like wrung out, just wrung dry. Jared just working really hard, and he had never been. But his vocal tracks came out nice. I mean, perfect. So, but yeah, that'll be coming out pretty soon. I've heard it so many times I don't want to hear it again. I'm already sick. We're already writing. We're like 4 or 5 songs into the next album, and this one hasn't been released yet.
Wow. Well, you guys heard it here first from Richard himself. Brand new Saint coming, hopefully by the end of this summer, called Heaven Fell. And so, Richard, let's talk about your influences. What influences did you have growing up musically? What got you to decide, I want to slap the bass?
Well, when I was a young kid growing up, I started off with Led Zeppelin, of course, and Alice Cooper and Grand Funk Railroad and Kiss. And all of those early 70s bands, and of course Black Sabbath. But I had no intention on ever becoming a musician, ever.
Wow.
I mean, I didn't even think about it. It wasn't like a goal of mine. When I grow up, I want to be like a rock star or something. That wasn't even in the back of my head. I really, music was my life. I grew up in a small town on the Oregon coast, in Lincoln City, and everybody knew me because I always had a massive stereo and a huge album collection. And those days they totally influenced me. When I got into my 20s, when I met John Mahan and started writing, because I borrowed and was influenced by a lot of those musicians.
Very cool. Those are great influences, man. Sincerely. And I've never really asked anybody this before, and I just kind of thought of this. What would you say? Okay, this is kind of a two-part question. What would you say is your favorite Saint album and your favorite Saint song?
Oh, I've heard them all so many times, I don't know if I like any of them anymore.
You burned out on them, right?
Well, by the time you get done with a production, the production from the beginning to the end, it could take like a year, and you're listening to stuff and you're kind of molding it and shaping it. Once you write a song, sometimes it's best to leave it alone, but nobody does. So, and I'm no exception. So by the time I'm, get through the production, yeah, I've heard these songs hundreds and hundreds of times, hundreds of hours spent writing and producing, these albums. So my favorite album is probably The Mark, only because it was so intense. Yeah. And I just got out of a 5-year study. I did a 5-year study with Kay Arthur in Precepts Ministry. It wasn't her actually teaching the class. It was another gentleman at our church. But we studied the book of Revelation. We studied Daniel, and all of the Matthew 24, all of those books to get that. And so when I pinned out, basically I just opened up Revelation and summarized each chapter. So when you listen to the Revelation from the beginning to the end, it's in chronological order based on the book itself, right? And there's a little bit of paraphrasing in there just for fun. I mean, it doesn't say like on the seventh trumpet, it doesn't anywhere in the Bible say that they had flamethrower mouthpieces devouring all, but it kind of does.
Yeah.
So, I kind of took some liberties with paraphrasing a lot of it. And so, and plus it was a really intense album musically.
Oh yeah.
And so that's probably my favorite. As far as a favorite song, man, most of the songs that we've done at one time or another were probably my favorite song. Because I generally won't put a song I don't like on an album.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I generally don't want to do filler music per se.
See, and that's good. I respect bands that do that, because unfortunately there are some bands out there, they just put filler music, like, let's just come up with something real quick, pop it on there so that we can be done. And it's like, no, take your time, write a good, catchy tune. That's
right.
I respect bands more when they do that, when they actually take the time to write a really good, catchy tune.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than buying an album and 2 songs are, like buying a Rolling Stones album,
It's crazy. I mean, I'm sure that's happened to all of us. I mean, I remember back in the day, like, oh man, I heard this song on the radio, or I saw the video on MTV, and these guys sound awesome. You go and you buy the tape cassette or the record. You take it home, you listen to it, and you're like, that's the only good song on the album. The rest of it's just crap.
Right.
Right. And you're like, man, what a waste of money.
Well, yeah, we could have used iTunes back in those days.
Oh yeah.
When you got your surprise album, because you didn't get you really didn't get to do any reviewing of an album per se, when back in the day, during the album and cassette days, you were just basically had to buy it. Now you can go to iTunes and go, I like that song and that song and that song, and make your own list.
Yeah, and now you could get music basically a la carte. You know, you could just I want
Uh-huh.
that one. You know, and you don't even have to really get like the whole album. But
Right.
but yeah, they didn't. You know, it wasn't like that back then, and it was really cool because like I remember, you know, like I said earlier, when you guys were still, you know, working on the album The Calf, and you did the bumper spot for the show, and the music you used in the background, and because you were like, oh hey, you know, make sure you play this because, and you know, let people know that this background music I'm using is for our upcoming album. So you know, I went and I did that. But I remember the music that you used was for the song Hell to Pay,
Right.
and it was just the music. There was no vocals on it. It wasn't finished yet or nothing, but it still sounded really good.
Well, you know what we could do. I have my own studio also, and the demos. I could send you a copy of the demos for the new album, and it's probably as good as anything that you would have heard from the 90s or the early 2000s. It's, you know, technology has gotten that good
Oh
to
yeah.
where, plus plus as you do it more and more, you get better at it as well.
Oh yeah, you don't even have to really go into a studio anymore. You can just record at home. A lot of people do that.
I all probably all of the guitars, all of the bass tracks. Yeah, all the guitars and bass tracks are recorded either at my place, or Matt Smith. He has his own studio up in Post Falls, Idaho, and then Jerry Johnson has his own studio. So yeah, that's how we do it. The only thing that really gets recorded in the studio, the actual Jared studio, which is a nice studio, um, is vocal tracks for sure,
Yeah.
and then drum tracks,
Oh yeah.
because you're not gonna capture all that stuff in your small. You know, you could, I suppose, but you're better to have a live room with, all the channels that you need
Oh yeah.
to do
Well,
the production.
and you know, in a studio setting, you know, it's going to be more soundproof. You know, you try to
Right.
try to set your kid out at home and record and set your mics all up. You're going to pick up, you know, room ambience, and you know, you may not have the acoustics in the room set properly, that kind of
Right.
thing. Same thing with singing too. You
Right.
know, like there, you know, if I was to sing, I know you can't really see because I got this backdrop here, but my office here in my house, this is a big room and it's got vaulted ceilings. And sometimes even when I'm just doing my show, just talking, it'll pick that up, the room ambience. And so I have to edit all of that out and stuff, so that my voice comes through nice and clear. And so yeah, I totally understand that. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So it's an exciting time in the music industry, and it also makes it affordable.
Yeah.
Yeah, because truth is there's really, we do this for fun,
Hmm.
you know, mostly for fun and ministry, is the goal. Because trust me, we're not making any money.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody right now is making any money.
No, no, that's the thing. And people forget, you know, okay, yeah, sure. Back in the 80s, man, when record labels were signing bands left and right, there was some money to be made. But, you know,
Right.
that's like 30 plus years ago, 30, 40 years ago. It's not like
Well,
that
that's
anymore.
before you could download off of YouTube or Spotify, and you pay next to nothing to hear music. But the
Mhm.
reality is, I mean, people, if they want to complain about paying $14 or whatever it is for a CD, that's what we sell ours for. It costs you $14 to get thousands of hours of my time, and about, I don't know, I'm going to guess $2,000 a song.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good bargain to
No,
pay fourteen
absolutely.
dollars for
Yeah. Oh,
for a
yeah.
for a $10,000 production.
Yeah,
Same,
absolutely.
so
And people forget too, you know, bands, the only way that they're able to make any money at all, and even then it's not much, is if they're lucky enough to get paying gigs and merch sales. That's it. That's it. They got to rely on that. Yeah.
Pretty much it.
Yep.
You know, I mean, if you can fill a big enough room, you'll do okay with ticket sales, I suppose. But yeah, you're right. That's the only way you're going to make money is to tour.
Yep. I see you got your basses on the wall there behind you, and then there's something in the corner there that looks like some kind of weird looking scepter. Is that what that is, or is that a bass?
No. Here, let me. This. Everything's falling down. This here is the prop for the Desperate Night video.
Oh wow! Yeah, that does look familiar. Yeah.
Okay, so in the right lighting and stuff, and I got like all these like red see-through lens things, so we could shine light through it, and it would kind of glow. Red eyes, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's oopsie. There's that, and then this isn't a bass. This is just it's a handmade Warmoth guitar, is what it is. Nice. It's super nice. Jared put that together for me. He claims that it's probably about a $2,400 guitar.
Wow.
Yes, but it sounds killer.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, and I may be, forgive me if I am, but the two basses right behind you on the wall there, are those BC Riches?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Good.
Those are BC Rich Beasts, and they stopped making those things.
Wow.
Heck, about 10 years ago, so they've gone up in value. But
I love the body design, man. Those are awesome.
They're amazing. But believe it or not, this is what I use to record with.
Nice.
This is a PV T40. Okay. You know, it's just but it's so versatile and it sounds so killer, and it's heavy. You would never want to play live with this bass. It's like weighs 12 pounds. Yeah, but these guys here, they look cool. That's why I like them. They look metal.
Oh yeah.
I like pointed metally looking guitars. The guys think I'm nuts because they'll play your standard stuff. But both Jerry and Matt recently just got them. So Jerry just got himself a really nice Jackson V, and then Matt got a nice V. I can't remember what it was. Who's that lead guitar player for Judas Priest? The new guy, I keep forgetting his name. Richie Faulkner. Yeah, it's a Richie Faulkner guitar. Super nice as well. So,
right on.
Yeah, we'll be stabbing each other on stage before you know it.
Yeah, and I do know that bands are just starting to be able to go out and do gigs, and concerts are starting to happen again. Thank God. So you guys have plans to get out there and perform?
No.
No. No, never. Why would we want to do that?
Well, we would go play, I think the last show we played was up in Seattle about a year and a half ago. Well, it's maybe 2 years ago. Yeah, it was right after, well, no, yeah, it was right after The Calf came out, and we played that show. But it's a lot of work, and so in order to really justify playing a show, you probably want to play like 20 of them, because it takes the same amount of practice.
Oh yeah,
to do 20 of them, right? Mm-hmm. Well, in the meantime, we all have jobs as well, and I'm not really willing to give up my cushy state job, to go out and tour and maybe break even or maybe make a little bit of money or whatever. So,
Yeah.
you know, unless something big happened, then, you know, it's, and the same thing goes with Matt. The same thing goes with Jerry. Jared, he's swamped, but he would probably sell his left leg to go play because he likes to play.
Right
I
on.
mean, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It really is. These guys that are out there playing and touring and stuff, you know, they're working their butts off.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, hey, Richard, where can people go to, you know, do you guys have a website people could go to get Saint albums, Saint merch, things like that? And where can people go to connect with Saint online?
Well, our website is saintsite.com. And then we have a Saint Facebook page, Saint Band, on Facebook. The website has our email address, as do all of the albums, I think. So we're pretty easy to get a hold of. It's a quick Google search, Saint Band will bring you right to us.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hey, Richard, I really appreciate your time, brother. And I appreciate you being on the show, man. God bless you. God bless the band, your family. And you take care, brother.
You take care also, Dave. And it's a great privilege to be here.
Thank you.